at times when we feel that nuclear family isolation, it's just us trying to fend our way through, we can isolate into ourselves and stop partnering and start separating from each other. So it really hurts our relationship. Maybe you have felt or sensed that with your partnership if you have one as well. Hello there, and welcome back to Heartmind with Holly. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so happy that you're here. And this week's theme is really potent, I feel like. It's family structure and talking about how we've structured our family systems, how that's happened, and how it's had an impact and the cost of that. I personally am really excited about this as it's a conundrum I've been feeling quite a bit since starting my family, starting to have children. But whether you have children or not, there is a sense we know if you're single or if you're in partnership, even of isolation that's happening in our individual lives. And this happens too for the family. And I want to talk about what family kind of means and how we've structured that in our current society. And so many of us know we're trying to bring back the village like community lifestyle. And so this week I have interviewed one of my community leaders, Amy Day, who is the lay minister at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship here in Humboldt. And we get to talking about family structure and why it has been the way it is and how it has harmed us. And she talks a little bit about her journey, about reaching out and trying to create lifelines, lifeboats for families and bringing a community together. Community healing has always been a huge passion of mine. I think that's why I started a yoga studio, was to heal myself in community as well as create that lifeboat that Amy talks about quite a bit for others within relationship and community of teachers and students. I have my cuppa as always. Feel free to grab yours and or continue to do what you need to do as you listen. And I hope this week of family structures supports you, starting with healing. How do we start to heal our family structures? And anytime we start to heal, we know all these great programs start with awareness. And so I want to talk about the awareness that what we have bought into with our family structures is just not working. We know it's not working. It's just not serving us. It's creating so much pain. This idea of the nuclear family structure and that we're all in our own little boxes. It reminds me of that song, about the little boxes. And it's really isolating. It puts so much pressure on the individual mom or the individual dad, the individual person upholding this one household. And while we long for that sense of independence, we're also suffocated by it if we're not seeking it and finding our support systems and starting to extend our family past our own homes. So that's the calling of healing, is starting to become aware of this cost that we have of the nuclear family. And I want to talk a little bit more about the research, but also how yoga and breath work can support leaning into growing your idea of family and starting to be vulnerable to go out and consider other aspects your family, whether it's other people, but also the forest, the ecology on the beach, all of this could start to be considered your family. The impetus of this week and these episodes actually came from going on retreat with my fellowship community at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. There's an annual retreat where we go stay on a river at a camp, and we spend 2 nights together in this type of communal living for 2 nights. And it is romantic because it's only 2 nights. I get it. But there is such energy and release and beauty that we all find. And there's a sense that we don't want to lose the community. And the kids roam, and everybody's watching out for each other, checking in with each other. We have our own little private spaces that we can go back to, but we also can hear, outside when people are playing or having community time as well that could call us out or keep us in. And so there's a lot more chances for support and for connection. And at the end of this retreat, Amy Day, who again I'll be interviewing, it mentioned after we all checked in about the beauty of having those resources for those 2 nights. She just said to the nuclear system, the nuclear family system, and that was the impetus because yes, that's how I've been feeling. And I think it's complex. I'm not an expert, but I'm going to share what I do know and the research I've done. I invite anybody that wants to chime in and give your own expertise on this. But the 2 things I know is just my lived experience and this sense, which is the whole purpose of this podcast, the sense that we're not okay. That we want to start to build systems and ways in which we can heal and create the life that will help all of us thrive. And so in my research, I want to just share the nuclear family we're talking about. 2 people, maybe 1 person with children in a household. There's no multi-generational holding in the house, grandparents, great-grandparents living within one house, or, a multi-purpose house, multi-family house. There's also a lack of family within the direct neighborhood. So the neighborhood is quite isolated and separated as well. And no communal efforts in meals or in efforts to care or render the children. So that's what we're talking about with this is all on the individual or the co-parenting couple. And again, this could be with no children, but the health of every adult being too seems to be on the individual. So this actually was sometimes attributed mostly to industrialism, but it started to happen in medieval times, medieval England, and there's some speculation and or some evidence that shows that this was created through the Catholic system, which is really interesting given my background with religious trauma, just how controlling Christianity can be. Obviously, other religions can be too, but the Catholic system really wanted to control the families, and one way is that they could both gain wealth from, breaking up multi-generational families, as well as indoctrinate individuals, was to start to give this propaganda around the nuclear family and to start to create an uprising of belief that you needed to be independent to be connected to God, and to kind of separate individuals from maybe the way other families or their family lineage had believed in the past. And this started to create more nuclear structures within society, as well as we know there's a huge shift in the 20th century, and this was happening in the 50s and 60s. There is one metric here I have that 77% of kids lived in nuclear families versus multi generational or even communal communities, communal living. And that's pretty huge. That's pretty big. This was happening during a time when we were really, at least, Americans were really trying to separate from communism and this idea of socialism, and that we were going to be independent and capitalists, where we focus on the production of, this independent structure. And these were the two big points besides industrialism to focus on. Industrialism also contributed to that, and the rise of living in cities contributes to that, so that people are having to kind of live in smaller spaces, this kind of thing. And so that was kind of the journey into our current structure, our current way of living. And I know that we're all starting to feel and be fed up with the cost of that. And I want to talk about the cost next that I have felt, and I think I see in my clients and in my community, the cost of staying nuclear, independent, bootstrap, capitalist, patriarchal society. There's a lot of isolation, a lot of pressure, I mentioned. And so I feel this even with my partner and I. We both can feel so much financial pressure to maintain, the meals, the needs of a household. And I'm not alone, I know, in this. And that can really start to turn us into ourselves and against each other. And so it actually has, at times when we feel that nuclear family isolation, it's just us trying to fend our way through, we can isolate into ourselves and stop partnering and start separating from each other. So it really hurts our relationship. Maybe you have felt or sensed that with your partnership if you have one as well. I also sense that it starts to help us distrust community and partnerships, and therefore further isolate us. And this has detrimental effects on our mental health, that we have to do it all alone, and that we are alone. One of the biggest tortures that you can do in prisons and just in general is isolation. That is one of the biggest tactics, right, to breaking someone down mentally. And it's kind of what has happened with the nuclear family is we've been breaking down our mental health, telling people that it's all on you. It's all on you or whoever you end up partnering with. And then it becomes this blame game and this dichotomy where you're pitted up against each other. You try to team up, but it's just too much even for two people to hold together. And that becomes really, really painful. And it creates, cycles of trauma for the children. And that you're playing that out on your own within the household. There's also the sense that you are meant to get all of your needs either from your partner or from your internal self. And you start to disconnect from the family of life. I have a group of friends in college, and I think uh, one of the benefits of university, although there's a lot of cost to going to university, is that we do start to create family, this kind of second family that's more robust. You could, a lot of people do, and I have created a second family or another family. I consider them my family from my university undergrad days. I have another kind of sense of family from my graduate school days. And I like to call them family. I think it helps that I'm an only child and I don't have like a huge nuclear family. So I'm trying to branch out or send my roots out and use the terminology of family so that I can feel not as alone. I think one of the reasons why people don't do that, and it's so ingrained in our culture, is because we are not taught repair. We're not taught about like true love or unconditional love, even indifference. So the fear of shame, the fear of just discomfort, which is another big thing that yoga can teach us, is to kind of be aware and okay in discomfort. The discomfort of creating relationship, and the trials that can come up with creating like true family relationships, people are scared of. They are afraid of making mistakes, or they don't want to get into seemingly sticky situations and try to work that out. As soon as they hit that roadblock, it's a cutting off. And that's part of, I feel like, this culture of the nuclear system of we're going to just cut this relationship off. Now, I do believe in boundaries, of course, but I'm wondering, like, it's partly our inability to have mature relationships. And I'm not saying you want to stay in a romantic or partnered situation that's unhealthy, or that you don't want to get divorced or partner up. Now, I feel like I need to give a caveat. I'm not suggesting that there's times in which we need to set boundaries with divorce or things like this. That's not what I'm saying. I hope people know that. But there is value in unconditional love and allowing people to make mistakes and seeing people holistically, even those kind of wounded, reactionary places that you might meet with someone, and giving them time and yourself time to work through that. And I think that's what family is about in the human realm. I also believe healing, part of healing is starting to is just starting to be aware of what the costs have been and what you need, and expanding your idea of family, expanding your idea of tribe, and starting, I know we know this, but starting to see the world, the animals, the planet, as well as the humans next door, as part of this earthly family. And that can really start to heal this sense that we're alone, or if I do something wrong or bad, or someone else does something wrong or bad to me, then we're going to cancel it. And that's a huge thing, right? Cancel culture. And the reason also that cancel culture is there is because we don't know how to hold people accountable. We throw them in prisons, we ostracize them. There's no real spiritual or mature way of handling accountability. And we can feel that right now hugely in our culture, as we have the lack of leaders to show us how to do that with compassion and love. And it's the breakdown of an economic system that has been placing us in these nuclear homes. I'll tell you what I think one of the big things I think it's going to take, which is part of my work that I do with people with forgiveness and accountability which are two huge aspects. One's a pillar, one's a foundation. The pillar of forgiveness and the foundation of accountability to build that healthy home within your own mind. It takes vulnerability. It's such a huge aspect. And we're going to have to start to be vulnerable, show aspects of ourselves. Not only that, that's what I sense in my own family, just as a personal experience, is so many of my aunts and uncles and even my parents, it's like they only show their partners this very vulnerable aspect of themselves. Sometimes, an extended family member, but being vulnerable enough to be ugly, being vulnerable enough to be sad or to be wrong. That's going to be huge. And then learning through being wrong how to be accountable and stand up and repair. This is not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. The other day, I had to repair and apologize to my youngest and tell her, thank you for standing up for yourself and for and showing me your strength. And then also explain my side, but it's not easy. We're not saying this is the easy path, but the other path has led to deep mental health issues. Like, this is the path of being in an earth community, is that we have to learn how to use mistake and vulnerability and relationship to grow. This is it. And the nuclear family has pulled us away from creating relationship, really, communal relationship. And it strips us from the knowing and the connection of life, really. So no wonder it's creating mental health issues and starting to normalize this discomfort of accountability and vulnerability. I think that's the work of yoga, breath work, the type of work that I do is starting to do that within ourselves and then within the relationships. So Deskachar says that yoga is relationship. It's all about this. And it can be on your mat with yourself, holding yourself accountable, feeling into the vulnerability, but it really is in the relationship with your child, in the relationship with your partner, in the relationship of seeking that support with those relationships in your community. And so while it doesn't quite feel like family yet, it's growing and starting to feel like family to me. For example, the Huff community for me feels like a family. It's starting to develop that kind of richness and support system that I can be for those relationships and they can be for me. And that's the main thing I said at this retreat is I feel less alone, less isolated. My marriage was really having a rough time when we first moved to Humboldt because we were so alone. So I guess my question is to you. I really am eager, and I know there's going to be some listeners that feel maybe very differently to me. I'd be really curious what you feel like the cost of this nuclear home structure we've created is, and where you might see patterns of the cost in your own life, your own mental health, your own economical health, where you feel those or sense those, and what your experience is with this structure we've created. And we've created it, starting to own some accountability with that myself. I've bought into it as well as part of, the way I thought I needed to get through in the world. The other question I have is, what possibilities emerge when we start to think past the nuclear family and where we might be able to start to support our children feeling less alone, feeling less isolated, and maybe having less of the same type of mental illnesses that we have mental health issues that we have potentially that could be healed or supported with more social support, more social engagement. What could that look like? And I think there's going to be even younger listeners here that might have amazing ideas that I can't even imagine right now. I'm thinking of some people in my community that are, just out of college now in their 20s. And I feel like they are viewing solutions in a very incredible way. And I'm seeking advice and seeking their wisdom about where to go forward, because I think they're going to have some of the answers for my girls that I want to see and that I think my girls will want and need to see as they start to come up in the world. So, what are some of the possibilities? It's just a big question. And when we do all this, what happens is we start to have a sense of more of belonging in this home that I talk about in the heart mind embodiment method within our own bodies and minds. But that's connected to feeling that outside of the body mind, or the connection with our body mind in community. Healing community has been, like I've expressed, such a huge journey for me. And I can't exactly explain how or why, or where this trust and courage comes from. Because everything from my past would have told me, to keep isolating, don't trust people, you can't trust anything. Because I couldn't even trust my family, right? I was deeply betrayed by my family in a fundamental way that still feels like every day I have to pick up those pieces. And yet there's a part of me that knows that the medicine or the healing is within community. I know it. And I'm not sure where that knowing comes from, but it's just so obvious to me that I can't, the more that I isolate, the more that I try to do this alone, the more pressure and the more unhealthy my mental state and my spiritual and my even my physical state will start to break down, the more unhealthy I become. And so I have to go out and seek or create the family that I need for this support. And that's what draws me into creating the business that I have, seeking communities like Huff, seeking and maintaining those families from my college and from my undergrad. I do have family too, blood family that I still have forgiven and communicate and lean into. And it's fine if sometimes those relationships aren't going to give you what you need, and you come to that again awareness, but then find it where you can and really try to create it where you can. Part of the healing is trying to, it was always explained to me this way, trying to seek or get ice cream from a hardware shop. That's how it can feel with our parents or sometimes our blood family, is we're trying to get ice cream. We're trying to get maybe unconditional love, or we're trying to get financial support, or we're trying to get something from our family. And they're just not open. That's not what they sell. That's not what they give. But you can still go find the ice cream shop. You can go seek those people that can give you those things. And I'm not saying it can't be, it's not difficult sometimes. Of course it is. But that's where the willpower comes, is I'm going to create it. I'm going to create this community, or I am going to be vulnerable and enter this community and try to get what I need from this yoga studio or this, this group of women, this book club, whatever it is. And I'm going to start to piece together the things I know I need. All right, I'm going to go back through the steps of healing this and starting to try to create something new for ourselves, but really, I think about future generations. Being aware of the cost is the number one thing. Being aware of the cost of isolation in nuclear family, independent uh, households. Then we need to be vulnerable and we need to be accountable. We also need to be willing. Willing, that's that willpower to create or find what we need. And these are some of the ways in which we can start to heal and create a family. I also will talk more about this whole idea, which I think is part of transforming, is expanding what we think family is in the transformation episode, which always comes after the interview. So Amy Day is my person, my leader that I will be interviewing next episode. She's an amazing, beautiful, bright, brilliant young leader of a community here in Humboldt that I'm so excited to share her wisdom. And then I will jump more into how do we start to really feel and know the Earth family and transform what family means to us in order to grow. Again, please share in the comments any of your thoughts, additions, or even maybe there's some countering that you want to express, which I'm totally open for and want to hear. Any stories that you want to share. I'm always so blessed to hear those and see those in the comments. I hope you travel well, as always. Enjoy your prana, enjoy your life force as you're going forward.